A GOP representative argued that it is actually better if a child is abused and killed. I kid you not. Here it is.
In the case where child abuse is fatal, obviously it's not good for the child, but it's actually a benefit to society because there aren't needed for government services and whatnot over the whole course of that child's life.
Through the chair, can you say that again? Did you say a benefit for society?
Talking dollars. Now you've got a $1.5 million price tag here for victims of fatal child abuse. It gets argued periodically that it's actually a cost savings because that child is not going to need any of those government services that they might otherwise be entitled to receive and need based on growing up in this type of environment.
Through the chair, Representative, I guess that would be the idea, if I can use a really bad analogy, when you hit somebody, always back up because it's cheaper to insurance. I don't pertain to that, and I'm really, I'm not even sure how to answer that there's a cost saving to the death of a child. The impact that has on a family and us as a society when a child is lost, especially to child abuse and neglect, is unmeasurable. And it's hugely tragic.
And follow
up.
And the way that you're calculating this 1.5 million, and when I say you, I mean the people who did calculate it, does that 1.5 million get higher or lower depending upon the age at which the child is killed?
This is why I cannot be a politician. I would have flipped chairs and everything in that room. All right, let's put him up. The man who says it's cheaper to kill them, talking about children. This is in Alaska. Republican Representative David Eastman is his name. He has now sparked outrage online for his statements suggesting whether there could be economic benefits from the death of abused children. Eastman asked a series of questions during a Monday House Judiciary Committee on adverse childhood experiences, such as physical and sexual abuse on children or growing up in a household marred by domestic violence, and how they can negatively affect a person throughout their lives. Now, let me say this to Eastman. I think you are short-sighted here. I'm going to try to give you some education and insight. Instead of looking at the byproduct, how about you look at the catalyst, or what we would call the genesis of the problem? While you're looking at the cost for the protection, the therapy that may be required for a child, what about the preventative cost before it got to that point? What about heart in the public dollars? You see, we're not taxed because we need the government to have a bunch of money. We're not taxed because the government is going to invest our coins and give us a windfall of money. We are taxed so the government can provide services to those who need it. I cannot think of any greater need than an innocent, abused child. And sir, you are elected by the people to make policy decisions based on service and not revenue. There's more. As part of the presentation, documents given to lawmakers estimated that when a child abuse is fatal, it could cost the family and broader society $1.5 million in terms of trauma and what the child could potentially have earned over their lifetime. Eastman said that he had heard an argument on occasion that when child abuse is fatal, it could economically benefit society. Let's go to Representative Cliff Grow. Democrat, Anchorage, was disturbed by Eastman's line of questioning after working as a prosecutor on child abuse cases. Representative Andrew Gray, a Democrat, later recounted he and his husband had adopted their child from the foster care system who had several adverse childhood experiences. He said it may not have been intended, but the implication from Eastman's comments was that his child was better off dead. Representative Sarah Vance, Republican, out of Homer, who chairs the House Judiciary Committee, thanked Gray for sharing his story, but neither Vance nor Eastman apologized, nor has the leadership of the Republican-dominated House Majority Caucus yet met to discuss whether Eastman will be punished for his comments. Vance, an abortion opponent, said she could not speak for Eastman, but she believed that he was trying to make a pro-life argument, really. She said many people consider abortion to be child abuse, but that abortion supporters have said terminating a pregnancy could be a better option than raising a child in difficult circumstances. That is called spin. According to Self Financial Incorporated, here's what Americans will pay over a lifetime in taxes. Here it is. The average American will pay $480,407 in taxes throughout their lifetime. That's an average of 34.49% of all lifetime earnings spent on taxes. Tax on earnings is where most tax will come from. And the average American paying $255,364 in a lifetime. Owning a car will cost an additional $26,000 plus in tax payments alone. Across the average, 9.4 cars owned in a lifetime. Tax on property will set you back an additional $174,251 above the property price and maintenance. Okay, all right. Everything comes down to an economic configuration for many. We do not elect bean counters. We elect public servants. That's the idea. We would like the money you take from us to go to service for those who need it. I don't see how you missed that, Representative. I don't see where you lost that point. But I am glad that at least some of your colleagues are trying to help you find it again. Doc, thoughts here?
This is an extreme and really shocking example of a logic that I also saw when I was writing my book, Dying of Whiteness, where I was studying Tennessee and I kept asking, like, why not expand Medicaid and provide health care for everybody? Now, it wasn't quite this overt, but time and again, I heard the message that basically it's cheaper to let certain people die than it is to provide services for them. And the logic people kept telling me it was to protect society, exactly like this guy said. This idea that basically if we pay for those other people, for a lot of people it was immigrants or undeserving minorities or something like that, that it's going to bankrupt the entire system. And so they would cut away prevention services. They would not support Medicaid expansion, which we still don't have in Tennessee. And in my book, I just did the math exactly like you just did there. And I said, like, what's the system cost? What's the system cost of not giving basic prevention? And believe it or not, I found exactly the same thing that you just found, which is that the cost to everybody was so much greater. The entire system started to fail. People would go to the emergency department when they could have been going for preventative checks, which was much more expensive. People got sick. They waited till they went to the doctor for really severe illnesses. And so the entire system falls apart. But there is this Republican ethos, I think, of deserving people versus undeserving people. Who are we going to pay with our tax dollars, not recognizing that everybody pays tax dollars? And so I just think that, again, this is a very extreme example, but I would just ask people to think about other examples where basically the argument of politics is supporting people is against our economic interests and that it's cheaper to let people die. And unfortunately, this is not the only instance.
Yep, very well said, Doc.